I assume that for your style of tattooing, the planning, for one thing, stencils for guys like you or Steve Butcher, to me just look like chaos. I can't tell what I'm looking at. But the approach, if you weren't the very first person that I saw taking the approach of rendering, from one area fully all the way up, rather than, almost like a laser printer, rather than from back at, whenever I started, you would blood line or wash line everything, and then lay in your values, and then lay in your color. But I guess my bigger question, one, I'd like to know where that approach came from, if that's something you guys just kind of came up with on your own, or if you learned it.
So when I was in high school, we did these huge portraits on paper, and we had to transfer them from an 8x10. And we had to do these squares, like a grid, and then draw it onto the other bigger paper in a bigger grid, when from 1 inch to 6 inch or 3 inch or whatever. So I remember drawing that, and we drew all the shapes of the shadows and everything. The first time I did a portrait, I ended up tracing it like that. And I remember I put the stencil on, and the girl that helped me learn how to tattoo had told me, she was like, "Oh, you're going to get lost. That's the wrong way to do it. It's too much information in that." And I was just like, dude, this is the only way I can understand it in my mind. So I did it that way. And it's funny because I ended up taking Bob Tyrell's seminar after, and he did a very similar way, but it was little dot lines. He would do little dotted lines in the shadows, and then hard lines where the edges were. I started getting opportunities to where people were like, "Hey, do you teach?" And I don't know why. I look back upon it and I'm like, man, what balls I had to be like, yeah, I guess I do. You know what I mean? And I just did it. And it seems crazy to me now, because I was 4 years in, and I'm like, yeah, I'll fucking teach whatever. I think it was just such a high volume of people asking that I just was like, oh, I could fit 30 people in a room, and I can do this. So I started putting things together, and I started giving away all the information. And I think also what kind of gave me that fire was kind of not being accepted by traditional tattooing. And I'm not talking about just traditional style. I'm talking about the very tattooer's tattooer, and these people being my heroes. I think hearing negative stuff about color realism and just all this negative about it just kind of pushed me to want to give all the information away. I was I want everyone to know how to do this. I want it to be just everybody's killing it at this. And what's crazy is I look now on the internet, man, and there's so many people that are so good at it, and it's all over the world. And I've heard such nice, kind things from people all over the world, from China to Russia to, the India, all over. And it makes me proud, man, because that was my goal, was to give this information away. And I see people really crushing it and even taking it further.